Um, free form. I know there's questions. We've got multiple things that we wanted to talk about. I know our financial policies adoption was possibly on the agenda tonight to discuss. Our post-employee benefit was on the doc to possibly discuss. And then we talked loosely about maybe seeing if we wanted to talk about the occupational tax tonight. So that being said, I would just open the floor. Councilwoman Cuellar, I know you've had some amendments to both of these documents, I believe, sent to Miss April. So if you want to kind of work through that, has anybody else sent any other amendments to legal? Councilman Fox, did you have any amendments into legal?
No, I had gotten wind of some of the amendments already there,
Okay.
which were 90% of any amendments that I was
Okay.
presented. I didn't want to be redundant to Ms.
Okay. Councilman Sims, did you send any updates to
No.
legal? Councilman London, good afternoon. Did you send any amendments?
No, sir.
Okay. So Cindy, Councilwoman Cuellar, please feel free to kind of move through, some of the suggestions that you had made and how you feel that it impacts the spirit of the document.
Yeah, beginning on page 4, first paragraphs, items number 1 and 2.
Which one we in?
You've got copies of it. It says financial policies. One of the things that I requested that we add was that the underlined words, you see them there, city clerk, treasurer, to immediately draft adjustments to the budget revenue and present the proposed budget revenue adjustments to the city council for review and consideration. Okay, there you have, it's very clear, the role of the council and the role of the mayor and the city clerk. And so this is why I recommended that we add this language so that it's very clear. Because the way it was written, it was ambiguous, and I wasn't comfortable with that. I discussed all of these changes with our city attorney. And so this is some of the recommendations that she made, and I was fine with those recommendations that she made. And number 2, there again, that third line, add city clerk treasurer, and go on, and the underline, present the proposed budget revenue adjustments to the city council for review and consideration. Those are the only changes that I requested. If you go on to page 5, where we're talking about the capital budget on number 3, the wording there was changed to say there should generally not be items in the capital improvement plan that are not fully funded. However, if the city is faced with emergency non-anticipated capital improvements that must be done, the city council may fund the remainder of the capital improvement plan or program by issuing bonds. So generally, we have them fully funded, but if you've got these emergencies, the council is tasked with the responsibility of taking care of these emergencies. And if we don't have the funding, then we're tasked with providing that funding to make this emergency funding happen for capital improvements. Then on page 6, where we're talking about the bonds again, the word generally again is there, it's underlined. A municipality handles the issuance of bonds through a firm of bond underwriters acting as fiscal agent for the city. If the city has a financial advisor, the financial advisor may solicit requests for proposals, RFPs, from at least 2 bond underwriters and present the 2 RFPs to the city council for review and approval of the underwriter that will act as fiscal agent for the city. There again, we're very clear in the role of the financial advisor and the role of the city council. And generally, and we use the word generally there for that reason. Going on to page. Our debt policy,
Hey, before we move on,
Page 11?
can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Foreman, I'm back on page 6, and I know legal has read this. So what you're saying, the financial advisor may, if they decided not to solicit, request RFP from at least 2 bond underwriters, is that okay also? Like I said,
no, what, that is a common practice that we solicit.
right, but you gotta have
Okay.
financial advisor may solicit request proposal from at least 2.
At least two.
If they decided not to solicit at
He
least
makes a
2,
point.
is that okay?
He makes a point
It
that
depends on the amount of the bond that we're talking about.
Mm-hmm,
Generally,
mm-hmm.
anything that's $10 million or more, we are looking at cost savings, maximizing the cost savings for the city.
Okay,
So that would be something that we'd want to do with something that's $10 million or more. If you're talking about less than 10 million, we aren't talking about that much in underwriting fees or bond attorney fees. And so in that case, that they can use the discretion. But when you're talking about more than $10 million, generally speaking, then you start to get into some additional fees, and we are responsible for getting the best bang for the buck. And that means if we can save by going with this underwriter versus the other, then we should take a look at that.
I think Councilman.
So the question is,
Question though.
yeah, if the question is, that's what you're saying, it's not in here, over 2 million. What's in here is that it's up to discretionary of the financial advisor, maybe you can answer this question. It's discretionary of the financial advisor may or may not solicit more than 2 RFPs.
What he's saying is the word may leads to, I know what the general practice is, but the
Right.
word may tells him he may, or by the adverse of that, he may not. So
Right.
if you want it to be that he must, then you must put must or will or strike the may.
And that would be something that would be up to y'all at that particular point.
Right.
But by actually putting in mandatory language in this, you are binding yourself to do that.
Okay,
So that's why, Cindy suggested that it be written this way, as in May, such that if y'all did choose to do that, you could elect to do that, but you would not be bound.
that's, I mean, I'm okay with it. I just want to make sure we had a clear understanding what it's saying.
What happen is for the financial advisor to say, hey, look, we had a $3 million deal, we went and got this person, and we've got it done to bring before you, and then us come back and say, well, why don't we have 2 now?
Right,
But, and the reason we don't have 2 is because he may
He
or
may.
may not.
Right.
So
Right.
you're fine with that.
okay,
Yes.
all right, we're good. Okay, I'm good, thank you.
Thank you, sir. You took.
Yes,
Never mind.
yes, sir.
Okay. Moving on to page, let's see.
There was an underline on 7. Was that different, or is that
Page 7?
Mhm.
talking about the 25%, how much that is,
Under introduction, Cindy.
right? Was that a change, or was that just underlined for effect?
I think that's how the original document was.
Okay.
It was
Okay.
underlined,
I was unclear.
but I mean, it's a good question to ask.
But to make sure we didn't miss
Do we
everyone.
want to limit ourselves to 25%? Or do we want to leave that open-ended to where we could go 30 if we choose? That's a question I'm asking
Addressing
everyone.
that myself, I don't want to be like the rich man and build barns and bigger barns, but I don't see having a problem in building a little bit bigger. There's nothing wrong with increasing your reserves to always cover for a rainy day or cover for a period where revenue goes down, at least in the world of corporate business. Revenue fluctuates, goes up and down, so there's nothing wrong with increasing or increasing your possibility or having a range for your reserves. Just my opinion.
Well, right now, we have more than 25%.
Awesome.
As I said, this is just a recommended,
This is just a
we're gonna have at least
recommended,
this.
yeah, it's a recommended amount. The GFOA have benchmarks. for what you should have. I think the benchmark now is around 15 to 20%. We got 25, we got more than 25%. I don't think we need to increase it to say 30 to 35%, when we already have more than that.
Okay.
And also, when you're creating policies, you also want to have some flexibility
Flexibility, that's, yeah,
in the policy. You
Right.
don't want it to be so rigid
that's right.
Right.
That's
that
correct.
you can't hardly do anything outside of the policy, because you got to go back to say, well, the policy says this, the policy says that. But having 25, you're talking about 1/4 of your money
Right.
in a reserve fund. I think that's a pretty good amount to have stated, even though you can have more.
Right.
I just don't feel like we need to go above stating more than 25%.
Okay.
Mayor, does it ever need to be a fluctuating amount that says it's, 20 to 27? Or are we mandated to be at 25?
It says equal to 25%.
And that's what it says, but we're talking about.
Could
the
it say or more?
Or could we, once again, have a range that says we're going between 22 and 27, or do we want to hammer it into 25? Once again, is this one of those stated practices, or as the mayor's saying, we're in great shape right now, so where do we want to be? Do we want to be, what is the state mandated amount for reserves?
See, that's what it is. There's no state mandated amount.
There isn't.
These amounts are recommendations, benchmarks by the GFOA, which is the government and financial. That's the arm for government. They have certain benchmarks and recommendations that they give as good, I guess, financial practices or financial numbers to be able to use. So I would say it goes back to, what about if we have some capital projects that we want to do and we have more than 25% and we don't want to go into debt and we want to be able to
Draw on this.
to use it? Well, if you say, well, we got to have 30 to 35%, we can never use that other 10% to be able to do that, because we have agreed as a policy, we always going to keep 35% in that particular deal.
But if we give ourselves some room in saying or more, we're not bound to that 30%.
No.
So if we were to say 25% or more, we're not bound to anything, but we could go higher if we choose to do so. And the reason that I asked that question is because I do remember about the financial crisis that we were in 2017, where we were told, the citizens, and I was at the council meetings, that the city was not going to be able to make its bond payments. And I met with you personally, David, to discuss it. And you told me we don't have enough in reserves to take that bullet if we have to. So we have to do what we can to increase our revenue. And that's the only reason that I'm
Okay.
saying or more.
I'm good with the more, but I do need to clarify this for the people that's in the listening audience. The city has never been in a place where it could not make its bond payments or have the money to be able to make their bond payments, because I have made the bond payments for the city over the last 10 years.
Right.
So I never remember a time where I went to the council, I've gone to the mayor and said, I don't think we're going to make these semi-annual payments. I just wanted to be able to clarify that the city has never been in a place where we were getting ready to default on our bonds. We wouldn't have a AA rating if we were in that position.
And I want to echo that because I was on council.
And I don't
Two
I don't
years, so-
recall the specifics of that conversation.
that's
Just
not-
being fair,
Where
because
we
that was
sat down
years
and
ago.
visited. Yes.
I remember sitting down with you and visiting multiple times. I don't recall the spirit of any conversation about defaulting on debt.
No,
I don't recall that.
What that conversation was, we have less than 3 million right now in our reserve, is what you told me. You were the financial.
Can't recall
meeting
the specs of that.
chair.
Yeah.
And I do remember sitting in on those meetings and taking notes, and that is what we were told
Yeah.
that we may not be able to make our bond payments. And so may not to me is, this is serious. Okay?
So for the sake of us moving forward with this conversation, I'd like to direct a question to Mr. Mack, who's our
Yes.
financial advisor. And the mayor brought up the good point, and you made up the good point of 25% or more. Would there ever be a possibility, as a businessman, I know there's a possibility sometimes there's a piece of equipment I want. I know that I want, we'll say 25% in my cash reserves, but it's not there because of cash flow right now, but I can get a great deal on this piece of equipment. So do I want to lower that to 20 or 22% to allow us to actually, once again, not go into debt, because we're saying we're only at 20 to 22%. What is our actual percentage amount that we need to keep in the bank to be able to meet our obligations for 60 days, 90 days, 120 days?
Councilman, I'm Mac Underwood, financial advisor with Church. The mayor is absolutely correct. The 15 to 20% is a kind of like a standard, but if you're at that level, you could be rated as low as single A. The 25% is consistent with a AA rating by Moody's and S&P. That's why we set it at the 25%. We don't want the city rating to drop.
Thank you.
So having the 25% is consistent with that, but you can have more than that so that you have a little cushion, but you really don't want to drop it below 25%. And most of the policies we see are at the 25% level.
Thank you, sir. That answered my question.
I
But
think
we'd
and
be
then-
okay with saying or more, because that only increases our, probability of solvency, would you not?
Are you just
By
looking
saying
for
or
an?
more.
Are you just looking for an at least,
I guess, yeah, my question to April
25% or
would be,
more.
is
or
there
at
anything in
least
this-
25%?
Again, we're not bound,
Right.
but we have discretion in increasing that if we choose to do so.
Well, the mayor said we have more already. We have more than
But
25%.
Is there a problem with adding the words or more?
I guess that was my question.
25% or more?
Does the current language prohibit more being in that account?
No,
Okay.
So, and the mayor said he was okay with that a moment ago. I think.
I mean, I'm
Yeah.
okay. I mean, I'm okay with it. I mean, it's,
Yeah, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I think-
let me just kind of share this with you all. We've been managing the city finances, I would say, very well since you all have been here in office. The only reason we wanted to have financial policies because it's a requirement when you do your bond issues. These are some of the things they ask for you to check off the list. Do you have financial policy? Do you have OPEB? Do you have investment policies? So I just want to give you all the context of why we have these policies in front of us. So I asked Mac if he would, since he's our municipal financial advisors, they work in this arena. I understand municipal finances, but I also realize that there's people much smarter than me. So I turned the task over to them and said, can you all get us a good set of policies that we could have here at this city in the event that I'm no longer here, Lee no longer here, you all are no longer here as counselors, new people can come in, pick up this document, and they can manage the city going forward and to be able to keep it in the place where it is right now. So that's the reason that we have the policies here. Second thing is, there are no perfect policies. They won't be perfect, but we can make them as good as we can and learn to be able to live with those policies. And there's nothing to say that we can't come back and edit or adjust if the economic environment that we in dictate that we do that. So I'm saying that we don't have to get them tonight where they are perfect, but we are in a place now that we didn't even have these before we got to tonight, and we're doing, very well. So I just wanted to, to be able to put that, out there. I have no issues with whatever adjustments you all, want to make. Because at the end of the day, I feel like we're going to consistently keep moving forward and doing the things that we're doing anyway. We just, want to be transparent. So we got these documents in writing. Anybody want to see how we manage them? They can request them and they can take a look at them and know exactly what we're doing here at the city.
I think it's good as is personally. Yeah,
I'd
I
like to
agree.
see or more, there to give us some freedom in making that decision.
Are you just scared that, I mean, are you just kind of tripped up on the language that would make it seem that we cannot exceed 25% of
I would.
reserves?
The or more gives us, it's clear, and that's why I'd like that in there.
And legally, you say it doesn't make a difference?
That would actually give you greater flexibility if you did put or more in.
Okay. I can live with that.
It would.
Or at least.
actually-
Why don't you do at least, perhaps at least, like,
No, I'd like the word or more, because we're saying equal to 25% or more.
Or
Well,
at
again,
least,
this, you may have answered it, Mayor, but if we do or more, we still can access that or more.
Yeah, we could have 40% in there right now. I mean, it's nothing that says that we can't have more.
No, but once
I
again, my
guess-
question is, if we put or more in, if we put more in, are we bound to leave it at the 30%, or we can always use
You can always do that.
not below 25%?
Right, if we say
Right.
25% or more,
Right.
that just means that
Just
there's
gives you
there's no issue with
flexibility.
having,
Let's
it
do
gives you the flexibility to be able to have
What
more.
do you say, Mr.?
Well, I just want to point out that if you go up, if your revenue go up every year, let's say your revenue goes up by 10 or 15%, then this fund balance has to go up by 10 or 15% to make sure you cover it. So you got to keep that in mind too. You go, if your revenue increases, it's 25% of your annual revenue that's in this fund balance policy. So if it goes up, then your fund balance need to go up at that same time.
25% of our general fund expenditures,
Yes.
okay? So that's where you've got that flexibility, where you can say or more if you choose to increase your expenditures and you've got more income coming in, you can have 25% or more. You have that flexibility, and that's what I'm
Understand.
comfortable with.
And sir, you're good with or more? You're fine? Based on legal and the flexibility, the additional flexibility, I'm fine with adding an or more on there. Councilwoman Cuellar is obviously fine with adding an or more. Anything that gives us additional flexibility, I'm good with, and it's not gonna hurt the deal. I can live with it. So I'll go in the direction of the body on that.
Well, John still thought the 25%, so do you want to stand on that?
I mean, he just said, I mean, if your fund goes up, it's gonna have to go up anyway. So
Right.
We're already
He
built
did say
into
that.
that, so that's gonna go up anyway.
Right.
Yeah, just automatically because what Mr. McUnderwood just said, so.
Well, it's always gonna be 25% of that number, so it will go up organically. But
Based on
the
budget.
policy is still 25%, but 25% of this is one thing, and 25% of that is another. So it will raise organically with those additional receipts.
That's correct.
But in regards to how much we have beyond that 25%, I think that's what we're talking about here and what we're allowed to do essentially. That's what I'm hearing. So if legal says it gives, like I said, I will go in the direction of the body, but if legal says it gives us more flexibility and it's not a problem, then I'm good.
So let's add or more.
Sims, Councilman Sims, care to weigh in?
However,
Councilman Box? Are you totally opposed,
it's all
Councilman
the same
Linden?
to me.
No, if that's
You're
the
good?
body, that's the
Okay,
body.
cool.
Yeah, that's the body.
All right, so there you go.
Not gonna hold that up. Spend too much time on that anyway.
Okay, page 11. Under scope and authority. The third paragraph there on the bottom. The language that was added was once it has been approved by the city council. And again, in that bold print, the third sentence, once it has been approved by the city council.
What page are you on, Councilman
On
Leclerc?
page 11,
Thank you.
third paragraph.
Does that need to say city clerk treasurer like it does everywhere else?
Yes. It spells it out. We have a city clerk treasurer. Go ahead.
We'll add that to it.
I see that, yes. And those were the only two changes on that third paragraph.
That's good.
On page 12, where we're talking about variable rate debt, I'm definitely not comfortable with that at all, especially in the current economy that we are in. I would never take a mortgage loan on a variable rate basis, nor am I comfortable with issuing debt on a variable rate basis. Because the rates are going up in this current economy. They're not going to be going down. And I'm not comfortable with paying more and more and more as they continue to go up. It isn't prudent, and I'm not comfortable with it. It's why I asked that it be stricken.
The only question I would have there, is for Mr. Mack again. This is probably a very elementary question. Would there ever be a time, or have you ever seen a time, is a better question, where variable rate meant it's fixed at a 5% payment rate, but it can be variable shifting down, but not shifting up?
No. The variable rate debt piece really comes into place when you have real high interest rates and you want to try to lower your interest costs. So let's say the rates in the next 10 years went to 15%, and you wanted to really try to lower the city's interest costs, then you could issue some variable rate debt. The policies normally have that in there for the flexibility in case the rates go way up and there's an opportunity for you to have a fixed rate debt at like 12%, and you can issue something to a lower rate debt at 8 or 9%. So with the counselor, I agree. There's no way you would issue variable rate debt at this time, but it could be 10 years out that the interest rate is high enough that you could have a small piece of your debt in variable rate debt. We've seen policies where up to 15 to 25% could be in variable rate debt, but she's right. At this point in time, there's no way that you would issue variable rate debt at this point in time.
And 10 years down the road, we could revise this policy to include this, could we not?
Yes.
I mean, this policy is for,
It is, but
Everything
10 years
forward,
down
right?
the road,
so I mean,
we
we don't
could,
have to
we could,
issue variable rate debt if we didn't want to.
That's
So
correct.
but 10
It
years
just
down
allows
the
the
road,
opportunity for anybody
we
to.
could add this into the policy.
Anything we
There's a
can
lot of
do,
homeowners getting
anything we
variable
do can always be amended.
Right.
So the question I have is, so what's the issue of having it now and not have to come back and do it later when we don't have to issue any variable rate debt? No, that's up to us. Am I correct in hearing Mr. Mack say that?
Yeah, any debt
Yeah.
that is issued by the city has to be approved by the council.
Correct. So my question is, let's put it in now. We don't have to issue the debt. We don't have to issue the debt.
Coach, using the sport analogy, you're basically saying never hurts to have another point guard.
What, it never hurt to have another play. You know, you may not use it, but you may not ever use the play, but it's always good to have it if you need it.
And the city has had variable debt before.
Yeah.
The city had variable debt when the city owned Mountain Brook Swim and Tennis Club. Variable debt can be advantageous sometimes, especially when you're doing something in a short term, to a year or to 2 years or something like that. It may be more advantageous. I'm just of the mindset that you need to be able to have all the tools that you can in your toolbox.
Right.
All of the golf clubs in your bag. Doesn't mean that you use all 9 of them, but at least it's there to be used. And the safeguard is you all have to approve any of
Correct.
this. If we would have tried to enter into something like this, the council would still have the power to vote it up or down.
I was just going to add, if I could, counselors, that the variable rate, oftentimes you'll see cap. Max sort of started to talk about that, and I wanted him to just share a little bit with you about what a percentage cap might look like. because with these types of policies, we do them all the time, and we just say it's a baseline for anybody looking, and you always can make a change. And when it comes to the variable rate, I would say we like to forecast that the rates are going to stay low and it's going to be great, but we know they're creeping up and they continue to do so. But it could be you're sitting here this time next year and you need the flexibility to go ahead and start this process. And that's the whole point, is that we're trying to give you a little bit of flexibility to start the process. But then when it comes time for final decision, still coming back to the council. But without it, it's just a door that's shut, and it's no discussion about it at all. So if you could, will you explain a little bit about the caps and how they might work, if that was something they were interested in?
For example, if you were going to issue variable rate debt, if you had $20 million worth of debt, and variable rate was like 25% of it was in variable rate, that means you would have $5 million in variable rate debt. That could help lower your interest cost or borrowing costs, especially when the interest rates are high. So this is in here for a flexibility point, and like we said, we would never recommend at this point in time that you issue variable rate debt. But if the rates are 15, 20%, and you can get debt issued at 7%, you may want to take a piece of that, a portion of that, and issue that amount in variable rate debt to lower your borrowing costs. That's, like the mayor said, it's just really a tool in your tool chest that you could use if you decided to move forward with variable rate debt. Now, I know everybody's kind of scared on variable rate debt because what the county did was they did almost all of their debt in variable rate debt, and that's left up to the city council. You don't do that. You really only want to have a small piece of it in variable rate debt.
I know that in personal and some of my friends that had variable rate mortgages, they became untenable. So that was my experience, and that was my resistance to variable rate debt. But in your explanation of it, it is a little more palatable.
I would say this: if you took somebody 10 years ago and they issued variable rate debt for like on the LIBOR rate, and they went with that variable rate debt, they saved money every year because the interest rate was coming down.
Mm-hmm.
So if interest rates are going up, you don't want to use variable rate debt, but if the interest rates are coming down, you could do that. So it just depends on the time frame and where the market is and what the long range, prognosis is. If interest rates are going up, you definitely don't want to issue variable rate debt.
And that's where I'm coming from, because I do keep up with the bond markets, and all of the financial large banks, investors, Wall Street are all saying that the rates are going to continue to go up, not in the short term, but in the long term. And that's why I'm saying we don't need to have this now, because when we do get to a point 10 years from now, it can be added. But I just don't think it's prudent to have that in here at this time in this environment that we're in.
Councilman
Well,
London?
may I say this? If you look at it from the opposite standpoint, if you're on here and you got a banking background now, what if 15 years down the road, there's not somebody on here with a banking background and want to put back the variable rate debt and they don't understand it?
Correct.
So you
All
put
the
it in.
more reason to wait until then, because then you can explain it.
Councilman London, thoughts on this paragraph?
Well, I think this is my own personal opinion. 10 years from now, who knows where we're all gonna be? No, I'm not even looking to 10 years. I'm just trying to get out of this council meeting. But I think it ought to be in there personally, because we don't have to use it. It's just a piece in there that if we need it, is in there. If the rates go down, we may have to use it. But if the rate go up, we definitely not gonna use it when the rate goes up. So I just think it's a piece, needs to be in there, 10 years down the road, they wanna use it, they use it.
Councilman Box?
I just have a bad taste about variable rate, but I'm not opposed after the explanations. I kind of deferred to Councilwoman McQuayle on some, but now that I've heard back in the mayor, and even Councilman London makes a point on the sports analogy, there's nothing wrong with having another play. So
Copy.
I will do as you say. I'll kind of go with the body.
Councilman Sims?
I just don't think we need to limit the options. I mean, again, we don't have to ever do it. If it's not advised to us that it's a great idea for a portion of something, then we won't use it.
Right.
But if it is, I think we shouldn't have that door shut.
And I appreciate the concern, and I understand where you're coming from. I would agree that limiting any tools at any time in any conversation is not a good idea. I would
Fine.
agree fully that that would probably not be a good idea right now. But I don't see the need to limit.
Okay, if the rest of the body wants that, then I would like to add some language to this if we're going to do it. And that is that it's clear that the city council would approve this, because it's nowhere in this document where it states that the city may issue variable rate debt and synthetic variable rate debt from time to time with council approval. Okay?
Doesn't the very top paragraph talk about the council approves?
Well, any
All
financial,
right, I'd like it there as well, so that it's clear that the council as a body needs to agree on this.
Legal, I mean, I understand it's semantics as far as that sentence goes, because we're the only ones that approve
approved finance.
all these things.
Yeah.
To satisfy Councilwoman Cuellar and not mess with the ability for us to limit ourselves, would that be a fair addition, or is it just redundant?
Be a policy call for the city tonight, but to add that particular language to it would not change the effect of that section whatsoever, because as you said, the city council is the only one who can authorize
Right.
the issuance of that.
I'm fine with just in regards to satisfying Councilwoman Cuellar, if that's going to help her sleep at night. I will be fine with interjecting that in there. I think it's redundant, but out of respect, then I would be fine with that. Councilman London, are you adversely opposed to that?
No, I'm good with you.
Okay,
I'm
cool.
ready to move to the next.
Councilman Box, you good?
Team cohesion is always good.
Councilman Sims,
Yes.
outstanding. Next.
Okay. We can leave the variable rate on the top of page 13 now that we've agreed as a body. That can stay. And the same thing in the second paragraph that follows, that can stay. I wanted a little more explanation on why we have a approximate of 25%. Where we're setting that 25% for long-term variable. We're not talking about short-term anymore. We're talking about long-term and why it's 25%.
Well, as I stated a few minutes ago, you never want to issue all of your debt in variable rate debt. So this 25% just gives you a little flexibility to lower your interest or borrowing costs in the case that interest rate do go way up. So if you had everything issued at 15% and you came in and did 25% of it in a variable rate and lowered your interest cost by 3 basis points, then that's a good thing. And you never want to put all of your money, all of your
That was
borrowing.
the point. Why are we making it 25%? Why not 20?
Well, kind of like the mayor said earlier, the GFOA and both Moody's rating investor people say that no more than 25% would be in variable rate debt.
Okay,
So you could make it less than 25, but then you limit your ability to lower your borrowing costs
okay,
in a high interest rate environment.
okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was wanting. Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay.
Okay, on, continuing on page 13, new money,
Question.
That section may
Back in there.
change.
yes,
Yes.
yes. And the same thing with the variable, leaving variable as is.
Question.
On new money financing, the last sentence there, on that paragraph, only addition was, and they will present these recommendations to the city council for approval.
Redundant, but I can live with it. Councilman London?
I'm with you, I agree with you, Council President.
Councilman Box?
I'm good.
What's next?
The top of page 14. I wanted that paragraph stricken. The mayor and/or city clerk treasurer shall have discretion in making the final determination to include individual refunding candidates that are above or below the target. Not all of the transaction expenses in order to optimize the city's policy and/or financial objectives.
Does that limit you in any way, Mayor? I mean, does that affect you in anything you're trying to do?
I mean, at the end of the day, you all still have to make
Make the
the
decision.
approval of whoever comes. It's not saying that Lee and I have the discretion
Correct.
to basically to go engage somebody. It's
The way I
asking,
read it,
I mean,
it says
candidates
that.
means, well, you're just
It is saying
suggesting,
that.
correct?
It is saying.
The
that.
candidates,
Well, the
And that's how I read it.
verb.
it says making the final determination. It
Right.
doesn't say legally engage the city to be able to, and now if we get him back to playing on words.
Right, no, you're.
It don't say anything in there about we can. I just want to say this. I'm gonna count. I've been doing this too long
Right.
not to understand that everything that I do in that office every day when it deals with the money of the city, that you all get the final say. There's nothing that I can obligate you all to go out and sign up the city for.
Right.
That's not my deal. That's not my lane. My lane is to be able to get you the information, to put it in a place where I can disseminate it to you, for you to be able to make the best decision. So if you think that there's anything in this document that's trying to give me and Lee the power to be able to make decisions and to take that away from the council, then I want to say that you don't understand that the document if you're looking at it from that perspective. Because I know what I'm supposed to do as mayor.
Councilman London?
I think I will leave it in there. It doesn't give them any power. It doesn't leave you any power to find, anything that's come to the city financial, it has to come across the city council desk for approval. Anything dealing with money. Not just the bottom line. You can write it where you want to write it. Final say so comes to the council. And that's just the bottom line.
I mean, we have a discretionary policy, which means that discretionary means that people are supposed to be able to do what they want to do because that's what the word discretionary means.
Right.
But I even bring things that are discretionary items for the council to be able to approve. So if I'm bringing you discretionary stuff to approve, Lord knows that if there's anything else that needs to take place, I'm gonna bring that to you all to let you all make the final decision. I just want to say this. If I was trying to do something wrong in this office, I definitely wouldn't have put it in writing to bring it to you all for you to approve it. And I rest my case. And I'm going to the mayor.
Councilwoman Cuellar's made her point. Councilman Box?
Maverick.
I can go either way. I mean, I trust the mayor. I think the verbiage of it does kind of tend to slant a different direction. But once again, I trust this mayor. I don't know what new mayors will do when new mayors.
Councilman Sims?
I just want to make sure I'm understanding. I guess the way I understood the paragraph was basically city clerk and the mayor had discretion to look at everything out there, maybe see some stuff that wasn't performing. Hey, we recommend these candidates for refunding. Is that?
Making the final determination to include individual refunding candidates that are above or
Which
below
then
the
they're bringing
target.
to us.
They're
make a
bringing them
decision
to
on it,
us to
right?
make a decision.
I don't have
Yeah.
time to go stare at all
And
these
I-
things all the time.
And I'll say the candidate is for that purpose. That you want them to do the heavy lifting work and bring you in a product,
Here are
a
the
couple
things that
things
we
to
suggest
choose
for
from.
refund.
That's the sole point of the sentence. I know it came as a recommendation from
And
that.
because of that, I am fine with leaving that in.
I have to call it.
Let me just say this. What we do is we look at any bonds that can be refinanced. They must generate at least 3% savings. We really would like that to be 5%, but if they're close to 3%, we could start the refunding process, and then once the savings get to that 3% threshold, we'd refund those bonds. We would never refund something under 3%. So,
Yeah, and see, that's not in here, and this is why I was concerned.
well, I mean, that's kind of a unwritten rule. You don't refinance anything that don't generate 3% savings.
For the next sentence in it.
So it doesn't have to be in writing. That's just a standard that's in the industry.
It is.
You really want it to be close to 5%, but the mayor needs to have the flexibility to work with us and look at all of the outstanding debt to see which ones generate. So we look at that and then do a calculation. And let me just say this, we've done this before where we look at it and it generates 5%, market changes and it generates 2.5%, we stop the process until the interest rates change again so that it does have the 3% financial savings. So we would be making a recommendation to the mayor, because people will look at it and say, you got 2.5% savings, and that's quite a bit of money. We want to go ahead and do the transaction. We would not recommend doing that as your FA. So we got thresholds that we look at and recommend to the mayor, but he does need to have the ability to look at all of the outstanding debts to make that determination.
Okay,
Without that, he can't really make it.
very good, thank you.
Next item, as we're winding down the 9 minutes.
So are we unstriking that? Or,
I know I'm
We can
okay
leave
with
as
it.
is.
I'm okay with it staying, Councilman
After the
London.
explanation, can leave it as
And
is.
Counselor, I'm sorry, that 3% is in that next
Yeah,
paragraph.
so you said to 5%.
Yeah, we're not gonna make our goals
Yeah.
here if we don't. meet
Okay.
these.
Page 16, lines and letters of credit. The only sentence that was, you see it underlined, once the city council approves the terms and conditions that are acceptable, the mayor and the city and/or city clerk treasurer shall prepare. That's the only thing that was changed and added.
I, once again, will say that it's redundant, but I am fine with it. Councilman London,
I'm good.
Councilman Box?
Yes.
Sims?
Liquidity facility can remain, since we've done the variable rate debt bonds. That can remain on page 16, April. Moving to page 18. Third paragraph under scope and authority. Conclusion of the annual due diligence review, and it's underlined, and reported to the city council. That was the only addition there.
Redundant, but I'm fine with it. Councilman London?
Good.
Councilman Box? Sims?
good.
Page 19. Remedial action, last sentence, and as approved by the city council. Going down to rebate,
If I could, I know we have a few minutes, not too much longer. Of all the provisions with remedial action, it is strictly by statute. And ultimately, it's going to come back to you no matter what, but you want to be relying solely on bond counsel who knows that area and is going to outline every single thing that will need to be done and not add yourself into the equation at that point. You need to hire the person to do it and rely on their expertise. And by virtue of the policy itself, it does come back to you, but I would recommend that you don't add that in that paragraph, just for those reasons.
Councilman London?
Yeah, with your explanation, can we take that out? Take it out.
Councilwoman
with
McQuarrie?
that explanation,
Okay.
fine.
You want
Thank
to
you.
steer clear of that.
Okay.
So we have gone through all that, and I believe we've agreed on
Rebate.
that. Is that correct?
I think there's one
Yeah.
more strike.
Yes. On rebate, the third sentence at the bottom simply added, consultant shall be retained, period. However, if the mayor and/or city clerk have determined that positive arbitrage will not be earned, no professional will be engaged. The only word that was added there was however.
April on that? Okay. Councilman London,
I had a comment, but it's fine, I'm good.
okay. Councilman Box? Sam? Okay, I'm as good as well. All right, so we've moved through that. Now is our goal tonight to also get to the OPEB information. I have not looked at this copy yet. I'm just flipping through it real quick, looking for any strikes or whatnot. I'm not seeing any.
I think to her
Last
very
page.
end.
Page 13.
Moving down the line, Councilman Lennon, any questions about this document as presented to us?
Well, I haven't had a chance to really go through it, but what's on the last page?
Page 13. Meetings as necessary, section A. You see the stricken part. From time to time, the mayor shall meet with each manager. After meeting with each manager, the mayor shall provide the city council with a report which gives a summary of the meeting with each manager. And if deemed necessary, the city council can request to meet with a manager or each manager.
Legal, the way I saw this was on behalf of, basically, it was giving the mayor the ability to have these various meetings without calling us into every single one of them. Did I understand that correctly?
That was the intent. Yes,
That was the intent.
of the sentence. So if it's ambiguous and that doesn't make sense, we could clean it up.
I believe I understand Councilwoman's concerns on behalf is, are you saying that's a transfer of power, Councilwoman
Yes.
Cuellar?
Yes,
I would say clean it up to make sure it doesn't attribute to a transfer of power.
And I think that you changed that,
Okay,
because she basically said, after meeting with each manager, the mayor shall provide the city council to
okay,
and then that goes further into explain that.
okay. I'm good with that explanation. Councilman London?
Good.
Okay. Councilman Box?
Good.
Councilman Sims?
Good with that.
Okay, we can live with that.
last page,
Wasn't the last page?
sections D and E at the bottom. On implementation, this would tend to take it out of the public eye with just having 2 council members to sign off. Keeping it in the public eye, we just simply deleted the line, the mayor and 2 council members, and we added the language, the approval of the city council, because we are talking about post-employment benefits that needs to remain in the public eye, as well as in section D, we added the language by the city council and acknowledged by the city clerk.
Legal, is this a standard practice? I'm assuming it's in this document because it's a standard practice.
Yes and no. I think the thought process was that it would help with expediency, that if you had a change that needed to be made immediately, that you could, but that as in the spirit of how you've always done your things where 2 council members are involved, that everybody knows what's going on and that it's reported later. It was the intent behind it to help with expediency. But if you want to do it as coming back for the council, that's perfect.
That, I guess, was gonna be my question. I assumed it was expedient. How often is there a situation where there's 2 days to get something done or less, just, or we miss out on something, or?
Mac, do you have any insight on like the quickness that's needed, or? Okay, that's fine. I just, because as far as different scenarios, I don't necessarily have any, but it's just sort of a practice note.
All it would
that
take would be a
helps.
quorum, right, to get it done?
You'd have to have a meeting, you
Right,
get a quorum, have a
quorum.
meeting, and.
So at least 24-hour notice. Yeah.
Yeah,
I can tell you right now, in July, I'm going to be gone for a week and a half and I won't even have cell service. So if something like this gets passed, it's not happening. So I'm good with the 2 for expedited services, because we're talking about, we've tried to call special meetings before, and you can see how sometimes that can be very difficult, especially when you get into summer vacations and things of that nature. I'm perfectly good with it staying 2, because those 2 council members are going to be held accountable anyways. So You can either take your lashings up front or on the backside.
That's what I was gonna say, and it could be that if the concern is the two council meeting, the two council members, that you actually allow that for ambiguity to clear up any misconceptions, but that any changes in E, that you actually have the entire city council,
Okay,
maybe that you divide it.
all right, so leave D as is with the mayor and two council members. And then E by the city council. Leave that, okay.
Okay.
That would cover those bases.
Okay.
So leave the mayor and two council members.
Yes.
On D, yes. Then on E, you would put it as it's shown now.
We good on these two documents?
Good.
They're on the agenda tonight, so speak now, forever hold your peace. Nope. Thank you for this gift of time, everybody. We just had a little bit of heavy lifting to do tonight, so thank you for giving us a couple extra moments.
All right.
It is 6 o'clock on the dot. Mayor will not be joining us. He was with us for a few moments here earlier, but he is not going to be joining this evening. Chief, we'll just transition straight on in, so. Yeah, 1 second. Yes, ma'am. You are? Oh, okay, perfect. Thank you. Appreciate you. Councilman London, would you be so kind to open us up this evening?
Yes, sir. Let's pray. Our gracious Father, once again, we're just so grateful and thankful that you have given us another opportunity, Father, to come and serve the people of Irondale. Father, we're just praying, continue praying for the city, continue praying for the people in this city, Father, and surrounding areas. And Father, we're thanking you for all the leadership that's here, Father, our council, our attorneys, and everybody's here at this city, Father. And Father, we're so just so grateful that you have bestowed this job on us. And we're thanking you in Jesus Christ that we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Absolutely. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilman London.
Come on.
Calls to order, roll call. Councilman London,
President.
Councilwoman Cuellar,
Here.
Councilman Box,
Here.
Councilman Sims,
Here.
and myself present as well. Next item would be, we'd be looking for approval of the minutes from the regular city council meeting on May the 17th.
Make a motion, we approve the minutes from the city council meeting, May the 17th.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No opposed. Next item, if we could get a motion for the payment of the current bills.
Make a motion, we pay the current bills in the amount of $733,689.47.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No opposed. At this time, we'll be looking for any of our professional and or consultants to deliver us a report this evening. Professionals or consultants? Okay, thank you. The mayor is absent this evening, so we will have Miss Emma Tolbert stand in for him. You have the floor, ma'am.
Thank you, Council President and members of the council. The mayor just asked me to announce some of the events that we have coming up because we have an action-packed summer here in the city of Irondale, and we don't want anyone to miss out. So, our first event is going to be kicking off our summer screen scene series, and that's this Friday, June 10th at Beacon Park. And the movie we'll be showing is Encanto. We're going to have free popcorn, snow cones, and games beginning at 7 o'clock, and the movie will begin at dark. And then on Saturday, June 11th, we're going to be kicking off youth sports here in the city of Irondale with a skills camp that features Trent Richardson and Trey Cheney. We have closed registration with 244 kids registered, but we probably will have some space for walk-ups if we do have anyone that was not able to register before registration closed. And the camp will begin at 9 a.m. and last until 1 p.m., and that's at Shades Valley High School at the football field. And in case of rain, we're going to be in the gym at Irondale Middle School. So we would also like for everybody to save the date for movie night on June 24th, and that's going to feature Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark. We're going to have special activities for the adults this evening, including a couples challenge, Irondale edition, where you'll be able to see how well yourself and your partner know one another and win prizes. And as usual, the festivities will begin at 7, and we'll start the movie right after dark. We'd also like for everybody to mark the date for movie nights on July 15th. We'll have Space Jam for the kids, and then we'll have another adult night on July 29th. And if you'd like to vote on the movie for adult night, on the 29th, you can go to IrondaleCommunityFoundation.com to vote for your favorite movie. Please also save the date for our I Love Irondale Day. It's going to be our second annual on Saturday, July 30th. It's going to be from 5 to 8 p.m. out front of City Hall here. And we're going to have food trucks, game stations, dancing prizes, a classic car show, and more. We'll also be selling our I Love Irondale t-shirts beginning June 13th, and they're going to be available on the Community Foundation website, and the orders will close on July 1st so that the shirts can be picked up before the I Love Irondale Day. Almost finished, just a couple more things. We would also like for everybody to go online and register for their free tickets for our 135th birthday celebration. That's going to be a music festival at Beacon Park on September 25th. The tickets are free, but you must go ahead and register because pretty soon tickets have only been available to Irondale residents, but we will be opening registration to the general public soon. So don't wait. Please go ahead and register for that. And the last announcement that I have is that the mayor issued a challenge at his second annual prayer breakfast for Irondale Prayer Partners. And he's looking for one person per hour to sign up to pray for the city every week. And so if you go to the Irondale Community Foundation, you can sign up to be an Irondale Prayer Partner, and we would really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, at this point, we would look for any department head reports. I know we have a few department heads with us. Any reports from our department heads? Okay. Now time for council, standing committees, and special committee reports. I'll go ahead and start with myself. First off, thank you very much for joining this evening. I understand there's probably going to be some comments after we get through with our business this evening based on some of the emails that I know that we've received. We will do that in a managed manner. So please keep that in mind. I will, depending on how the volume that we receive in regards to comments, we could impose the 2-minute timer. So that's something to be on the lookout for. I will let y'all know if that's in place. I understand we have some things that need to be brought to our attention, and we accept those things and look forward to hearing about those things, but it must be done in a managed manner. As far as other things going on in District 2, we've just really enjoyed our street repaving. We've seen our garbage trucks out, our debris trucks out, and things of that nature. So we just appreciate Public Works for doing all the work that they're doing at this time. Councilman Sims?
Thank you everyone for coming, and I don't have anything.
Okay. Councilman Box?
Echoing, thanks everybody for coming. Senior Citizen Center, we're going to work on a couple of things tonight that should help there. It'll be evident when we talk about it. Public safety, our guys are doing an awesome job. Police and fire, we just always are thankful to them for their sacrifice of not being with their families and keeping as safe as they can. The abatement board has made some project, as we saw. The Siesta Motel is down, and we're actually fixing to do some removal of some of the ordinances that are there in that place. And with that said, that's all for me.
Okay. And before we continue, excuse me, Councilwoman Quayer, just something to bring up as well. The regular city council meeting to be held on Tuesday, June 21st, 2022 will be rescheduled to Wednesday, June 22nd, 2022 due to the runoff elections. Appropriate notices will be posted. Sorry, thank you, Councilwoman Cuellar, please.
Yeah, no, good. Thank you for that
Yep.
reminder. Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. There are a couple of things I did want to mention, especially for those that are in my District 3. The progress continues with the Publix development as well as the Heights development and the Grants Mill widening, the I-459. I've been in contact and close communication with the county commissioner there to give me a date, a time frame as to when they're actually going to be closing that extension from the old Leeds Grants Mill intersection to I-59. So as soon as, we'll try our best to keep you updated so that you know not to be traveling that way, and you can make some alternative ways of getting to I-459 from where you're traveling. But that's coming up pretty soon. And the second thing I wanted to mention, she mentioned it to me earlier, and I'm going to give the floor to her because she's done an outstanding job as our city clerk treasurer, and I want her to tell you about some of the collections that she's been successful in collecting from businesses that have not been paying their tax that's due to the city. Lee, you want to share that with everyone?
So we started this on May 9th, and then filed notices by code enforcement officers to the business. And today at 11:07, so less than a month, we brought $100,000.
Way to go, Lee.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Chief Wiggins, very grateful.
Thank you. Does that satisfy your report, Councilwoman Cuellar?
Yes.
All right. Councilman London.
Thank you, Council President. I just have one thing. We have some special guests tonight that's going to take my spot. We have the FBLA group over at the Shades Valley High School. I think it's Miss Marks. Miss Marks here? There she is. Miss Marks here. They're going to have a few words in a second, but I'll introduce them in a second. But I think I want to play the video first, and then we'll introduce them after the video. Chief, we're going to give it a play the video now.
Irondale City Council and Mayor James Stewart from the Shades Valley High School chapter of FBLA, Future Business Leaders of America. We would like to extend a most gracious and heartfelt expression of thanks for your many generous contributions to not only our trip to Chicago, but our futures. We don't take it for granted that you all have stepped into a situation to ease the burden of paying high expenses, and for that, we say thank you. We wanted to afford the opportunity to everyone who you've helped to show their appreciation. Take a look.
Hello, my name is Akima Gardner, Shades Valley's FBLA Vice President for this year. I'd just like to thank all those who donated and given their time and money to Shades Valley to help us move forward to Chicago, to create memories and just have fun. I just want to thank you all for donating. Thank you.
Huge appreciation to everyone who took the time out of their day to donate to us. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Micah Taylor from Shades Valley High School. I just want to make a quick video to thank all of our sponsors and supporters. Your contributions to our organization mean the world to us. So once again, thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Kennedy Robinson, and I'm a rising junior at Shades Valley High School. And I would like to say thank you to all the sponsors who made it possible for us to travel to the FBLA National Leadership Conference in Chicago. Again, thank you so much.
Hi guys, it's Riley James from Shades Valley, and I just want to thank all the donators for helping us get forward to Chicago. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mackenzie Millsap, and I'm a part of Shades Valley FBLA. And I just want to give a big thank you to everybody who helped get us to our big trips to nationals. We know that without your support and your funding that it wouldn't be possible. And thank you in advance for all the fun memories and fun times that my classmates and I get to share in Chicago. And I just want to thank you so much for supporting us. Hi everyone, my name is Megan Millsap and I would like to personally extend a thank you to all the people who supported Shays Valley High School's FBLA trip to nationals. Without you guys, we couldn't have done it. And thank you for letting us create memories together. And thank you so much for supporting us. Go Mounties!
Hello, my name is Gabrielle Harris and I'm a junior at Shays Valley High School. Everyone that supported Shays Valley FBLA, I would like to share my thanks and gratitude for all the time that you have put in with us. I'm so happy for all that have donated. Because of your help, me and my classmates are able to go to nationals in Chicago. With your donations, we're allowed to network, to compete, and share memories with one another. So once again, thank you for all your support.
Mayor Stewart, Aaron Sims, and myself, we gave some discretionary money. Aaron and I gave $1,000. Thank you, Aaron. And then Mayor gave $2,500 for them to make this trip to Chicago. My only request is that once you become great business leader, that you come back to Irondale and put your business in Irondale. That's all we ask. That's all we ask. That's all we ask. But at this time, we're gonna have Miss Marks to come, Jalen Fields, Jamie Church, and Jake Culbertson? Culbertson. I want you to come up and say a few words.
Hello, everyone. I am the FBLA advisor. We had about 50 students to compete in the state conference against students across the state of Alabama. And I'm glad to report that we had about 30 students to qualify for national. And again, going to Chicago was extremely expensive. So we would definitely like to just thank you guys. Thank you again, Councilman London, Councilman Sims, for that additional donation. And of course, the city of Irondale, and my supervisor.
Jake Culbertson, I want to say thank you to the mayor, even though he's not here for it today, and as well as the city council for all of the generous donations to us. We probably would not have been able to go on this trip if not for the donations to help us go. I know I wouldn't have been able to. And I deeply appreciate the opportunity to represent Alabama at nationals, as well as to be here to say thank you.
Hello, I'm Jamie Church, and on behalf of all of FBLA, we would like to say thank you for supporting us financially to our trip to Chicago. Not only are you supporting us financially, but you're supporting our ambitions and our goals, and to help us accomplish things. So thank you so much for supporting our generation. And we are all extremely grateful, and we have a face for
Bill, I am the president right there, sitting right there. But I know just all of us here are seniors, so I know for us, there's been a lot of other needs and a lot of other things that this trip might not have been able to happen if we didn't have funding. I know my mom was a small business owner, so she would have made it happen, but it's still the fact that everyone the team might not help us. It was much more. So, Tim and London, thank you for bringing up the extra information.
Now, I know the mayor's not here, and I have my suit on, so you mind if I get a picture? They say we look alike. But thanks again, and I hope y'all have a safe trip to and from. Thank you. Thank you.
Does that conclude your report?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. Let's see here. At this time, we would look for any reports of boards and not any non-council committees. So any boards or non-council committees that would like to report tonight. Okie dokie. All right. So we will move into a public hearing. I believe we have a specialist here to assist us with some of this stuff. Public hearing to hear comments from interested citizens concerning the adoption of the following standard code adoptions. I'm just going to run through them quickly. 2021 International Building Code, 2021 International Plumbing Code, 2021 International Fuel Gas Code, 2021 International Mechanical Code, 2021 International Residential Code. Item number 6, National Electric Code. That would also concern 2021 International Fire Code, 2021 International Energy Conservation Code, 2021 International Existing Building Code, 2021 International Property Maintenance Code, 2021 International Swimming Pool and Spa Code, 2021 International Green Construction Code, National Fire Protection Association Codes and Standards. Right on. Item number 14, Americans with Disabilities Act Standards and Acceptable Design. So at this time, I would accept a motion to move into a public hearing.
Motion to move in public hearing.
Second.
Motion and a second. Thank you very much. Mayor mentioned that that Mr. Brad Doss would be here with us tonight to possibly discuss some of these items. Is that the case?
Chief is here.
I'm sorry?
Chief's here.
Oh,
He's-
Chief's here. Okay,
he's
you
good.
got this for him. All right, perfect. Come on up. All right. I know that I personally didn't really have any questions with this. I accept Mr. Doss's recommendations and things of that nature. Councilman London, any question for Chief?
No question.
Okay. Councilwoman Cuellar?
No questions.
Councilman Box?
No question.
All right. Councilman Sims?
No questions.
Yeah, I knew I had this.
You know,
I knew it.
Yeah, but he's a job.
in the bag, man.
And just for public knowledge, this is just we typically try to change, especially the fire codes and the building codes when the state changes, so that we can stay up to date with the state, and we move when they do. And that's the big move that's going on right now, especially on the fire code side. And when ISO comes out to do their grading, they like to see that your codes are no more than 5 years. They can be, but you just get less credit for that. So in the spirit of keeping that as well, that's another reason for that. Plus, it just kind of coincides with if we deal with the state fire marshal or anything, we're just kind of all in the same code. But that's what everyone around us is looking at doing. So
Gives contractors and people that are working in these particular fields consistency when they're working from one municipality to the other is kind of what I've always heard. Would you agree with that?
correct.
Okay. Copy that. Since there's no questions from the dais, I'd like to go ahead and accept the motion to close our public hearing.
Motion closed.
Okay.
Second.
Outstanding. Anyone that wants to speak in favor of these codes? Anyone speak against these codes? Fair enough. Thank you very much. Moving on to the deliberation on agenda items only. Old business, resolve that resolution 2022 R94 adopts an internal investment policy for the city of Irondale. Item number 1 and number 2 are kind of tied together. Resolve that resolution 2022 R95 adopts the OPEB investment policy statement for the city of Irondale. I know we've spent an hour talking about these two documents prior to this meeting. Councilman London, any final statements?
No final statement.
Councilwoman Cuellar?
No final statement, other than I'm fine with the amendments that have been made to it.
Fantastic. Councilman Box?
No question.
And Councilman Sims?
I just want to say I appreciate Councilor Cuellar's time looking into those and making some suggestions and some changes, and I'm good with that the way they are.
No questions, but I echo that. I applaud your diligence, Councilwoman Cuellar. All right, so these are resolutions. Would we go ahead and keep these on consent agenda? Council, okay. Councilman London?
Yes.
Okay, everybody's good?
Yes.
All right, so item number 2, Item number 1 and number 2 would stay on the consent agenda. Item number 3, Resolution 2022 R98 amends Resolution 2022 R98, which authorizes the execution of a lease agreement with Republic First National for 2 tractors, cutter attachments, a miscellaneous tracked 60-inch remote control slope mower with winch, and other miscellaneous items in the amount of $302,813.47 for the Public Works Department. This had Mr. Pennington's name on it. Yes, ma'am.
I can speak to this. This is the very same resolution that you all considered last regular city council meeting. We just added in the actual documents so that you could review those and approve them again. So this would just be, just a ratification of what you've already passed.
Gotcha, because I remember some of those documents came a little later in the evening.
That's
Okay. I thought it was the price tag that was the difference, and I was trying to see what the difference was, so thank you very
The
much.
same, except for the actual documents. They're just completed, and they were not completed in your last packet.
Official exhibits this tonight.
Correct.
Gotcha.
They had, they were in the regular form. It's just there are certain things that are now completed, so we wanted you all to see that again.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Councilman London, any
No-
questions?
no question.
Councilwoman Cuellar?
No, and for the benefit of those that are here, when we approved this, it was noted that this would apply to our fiscal year, 2023 fiscal year. And so this spells it out. The first payment on this lease will not be due until November 1st of 2022. Our fiscal year begins in October of 2022. Okay? So I just wanted to make sure that we noted that, because we did state that at our council meeting, and this confirms that it will not begin until 2023.
Thank you. Councilman Box?
No questions.
All right. Councilman Sims?
No questions.
We can leave this on consent?
Yes.
Nods in the affirmative. All right. Item number 4, first item under new business, resolve that resolution 2022 R99 rescinds the demolition order by the city council on the Siesta Motel building structures, and these structures have been cleared. Housekeeping item, basically, the job has been done. Councilman London, any questions?
It didn't cost the city a dime.
Indeed.
So no
Councilwoman
problem.
Cuellar?
No questions.
Councilman Box?
No questions.
Councilman Sims?
No questions.
We can leave this on the consent agenda?
Yes.
Yes.
Outstanding. Item number 5, resolve that resolution 2022 R100 requires that all fire hydrants installed or replaced by the Birmingham Waterworks Board in the city of Irondale have a stores connection. Chief McDaniel, would you care to comment on a stores connection?
Yeah, the stores connection is the large 5-inch hose that we carry. It's just a sexless coupling, and currently Birmingham does not. It's not standard for the Birmingham Waterworks to do that. There was an issue in the past with some of the threads and the way things were. So it's just pretty much for them to make sure that they install the fire hydrant like we need it. They needed a resolution to say this is how we require it.
And they're okay with that once we agree upon that? There's no pushback or?
No pushback. They just said they had to have that to be able to do that going forward.
Thank you, sir. Councilman London, any questions?
No question.
Councilwoman Cuellar?
No questions.
Councilman Box? Councilman Sims?
No questions.
And myself, no questions. Everybody agrees to keep this on consent?
Yes.
Yes, we're good? All right. Item number 6, resolve that resolution 2022 R101 authorizes the execution of a service agreement with United Ability, Inc. in the amount of $2,500. Councilman London, any questions on
No
this?
question.
Councilwoman Cuellar?
No questions.
Councilman Box?
No questions.
Councilman Sims? Myself, no questions there. I'm assuming we can keep this on consent. Everybody good?
Yes.
Outstanding. Item number 7, resolution 2022 R102 authorizes the execution of a service agreement with Birmingham Children's Theater, Inc. in the amount of $2,500 for the provision of interactive theater opportunities for children living in Irondale through its Adventure Theater program. Councilman London, any questions?
No question.
Councilwoman Cuellar?
No questions.
Councilman Box?
No questions.
Councilman Sims?
No questions.
No questions here either. Keep it on consent, yes? Everybody's good? All right. Item number 8, Resolution 2022 R103 authorizes the execution of a service agreement with ClassTran in the amount of $2,000 for specialized transportation paratransit services. Councilman London, any questions?
No question.
Councilwoman Cuellar?
No questions.
Councilman Box?
Good.
Councilman Sims?
None.
All right, we can keep this on consent?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Item number 9, Resolution 2022 R104 authorizes the 2022 Irondale Youth Sports Skill Camp event on Saturday, June 11th, 2022 at the Shades Valley High School Football Stadium to encourage the development of sports in the city of Irondale for youth between the age of 5 to 14 years of age in the sporting arenas of football, cheerleading, volleyball, basketball, softball, baseball, and track and field, and authorizes the expenditure of $5,000 for such event. Councilman London, any questions?
No question, but I hope everybody will come out and support.
Understood. Councilwoman Cuellar?
No questions. I'm gonna defer to Councilman Box because he met with Mayor Stewart on this, and so I'll defer to him to explain it all.
Okay, no pressure. Councilman Box?
Yeah. Well, number one, this is a great start, but once again, I just want to reiterate, this is a start. A month ago, we approved a little bit of money to kind of get this in place. It grew more than anybody expected, which is awesome. So I think that forgive me back there, but Miss Emma had stated that she had 244, but we're expecting more as walk-ups where children could register. That's amazing. Especially since we haven't had any type of youth sports or activities in over 3 years, but in reality, I think it's been pseudo-dormant more than that, if I'm correct. Councilman London, a little bit more than 3 years it's been dormant.
Yeah, it's probably about 4 or 5 years, yeah.
So, with that said, the mayor does have a vision, which we all kind of agree with, for an end run to this thing. That's going to be amazing to provide some top-notch facilities for them. But to also help these children get started and get cranked off, you may see more requests for funding coming through for that, with even possibly some budgeted items for it that will decrease over time as our 501c3 for Irondale Youth Sports is being set up. Is that correct, April? We're on path for that.
As far as I know, yes.
And then we also have the Irondale, Cindy, what is that other?
Irondale Community Foundation.
The Irondale Community Foundation is kicking in. So we've got, they have provided funding also for the event that's coming up. And also Church of the Highlands graciously donated several pallets of water and different liquids and Gatorade for us too. So it's a great start. We'll be telling you more about what the vision is for it as it develops. That's all.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Sims?
No questions.
And I do not have any questions. Keep this on consent?
Yes.
Okay. We have a few items on the regular agenda that would fall outside of consent. Regular agenda, item number 1. Let's see here, sorry. Thought I heard something. Ordained that through ordinance 2022-09, the 2021 additions for the international building codes, international existing, I'm not going to read all of them again. It's that whole list that I cited. Basically, this would be an ordinance that would be approving those items. Councilman London, I know we've already talked about this. Any additional questions?
No question.
We're
Thank
good?
you.
Councilwoman Cuellar?
No questions.
Councilman Box? Councilman Sims?
No questions.
Okay, perfect. So this will need to follow our ordinance procedures, so someone could be on the ready for that. Second item under new business, resolve the resolution 2022 R105 authorizes the purchase of real estate at 3521 Ratliff Road, Irondale, Alabama for the purchase price of $5 million and Mayor James D. Stewart Jr.'s execution of any documents necessary to effectuate such purchase transaction. Councilman London, any questions?
I mean, I'm telling you this, I'm so excited. I am turning over cartwheels. If I can flip backwards, I would. I am so excited that we have an opportunity to purchase this property, because there's so much that the people has been asking for, that this piece of property could be the place for to put all of it.
Yes, sir. Councilwoman Cuellar?
No questions or comments.
All right. Councilman Box?
Just echoing Councilman London's statement on that, this is could be a game changer for the city and some things that the citizens have been looking for.
Councilman Sims?
No questions.
No questions for myself either. All right, we will put that through a vote. Legal, do we need to run that through the ordinance process, even though it's a resolution?
that would be good, yes.
Okay, copy. So item number 2 will go through the same process as item number 1. Finally, item number 3, resolve that resolution 2022 R106 assents to the vacation of a portion of the right-of-way on Old Leeds Road at the request of Grants Mill LLC, owner of the land abutting that portion of the street to be vacated. Councilman Lennon, any questions?
No question.
All right, Councilwoman Cuellar?
No questions.
Councilman Box?
Good.
Councilman Sims?
No question.
And I'm good as well. That we should be able to adopt that. We don't need to run through ordinance procedure on that. Okay. So standard resolution process on item number 3 under regular business. All right. So with that concludes our deliberation. At this time, I would ask for approval of the form of the agenda.
Motion to approve the form of the agenda.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposed. All right. That being said, at this time, we would accept any public comments on agenda items only. So the items that we've just deliberated on, we would accept comments on those items only at this time. Any comments on agenda items only? Fair enough? All right. And then at this time, I would ask for approval of the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda with items number 1 and 2 as amended, and item 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9.
A motion for the consent agenda. May we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposed. Okay. That being said, we find ourselves at item number 1 of our regular agenda. If someone could go ahead and take us through the process on 2020-09.
I make a motion that ordinance 2022-09 be considered read.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I make a motion that we suspend all rules that would prevent the immediate consideration of ordinance 2022-09.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. Councilman London?
Yes.
Councilwoman Cuellar?
Yes.
Councilman Box?
Yes.
Councilman Sims?
Yes.
And myself, yes. And finally?
I make a motion that ordinance 2022-09 be approved and adopted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposed. Thank you, ma'am. Item number 2 under regular agenda, please.
Make a motion that resolution 2022 R105 be considered read.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye. I make a motion that we suspend all rules that would prevent the immediate consideration of resolution 2022 R105.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call. Councilman London?
Yes.
Councilwoman Cuellar?
Yes.
Councilman Box?
Yes.
Councilman Sims?
Yes.
And myself, yes.
And finally, I make a motion that resolution 2022 R105 be adopted and approved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposed. And lastly, item number 3 on regular agenda.
Make a motion that resolution 2022-R-106 be approved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposed. That brings us to the end of our agenda and deliberation for this evening. At this time, and before I say this, we have a process for public comments on non-agenda, anything in general. There were slips at the door. It is going to be crucial that that slip is filled out with a name and an address in order to be able to speak. So at this time, we would go ahead and accept public comments on non-agenda items. Yes, ma'am. And I will go ahead and enforce the 2-minute timer just so we know.
Ann Vafiatis, 1004 Bramble Lane. I just have a quick question. I'm looking for an update on the dog park.
I do not have one at this time for you, Miss Ann. I know that the
Okay.
mayor mentioned he would get us both an update. I have not received one personally.
Is there a reason that we couldn't just have something like what we did at Ruffner Park, you know, just have the fencing put up and there's a fire hydrant there. We can have some water lines set up for the water for the dogs.
You're talking about the existing,
Yeah,
the one, the
Ellard
temporary.
Park. No, Ellard Park.
Oh,
I'm talking
Ellard.
about Ellard Park. I've gone there to look at it about a month ago, and they've got fencing now, and they've got the fire hydrant that's not far. So I
Right.
mean, it wouldn't interfere with anything that we're doing additionally. We're looking at about 75,000 to kind of get that done
Yeah.
and continue to move forward with Ellard Park. I mean, we've got the money budgeted, $300,000.
So are you talking about just running water lines right now?
Water lines and having Public Works put up some fencing.
I'm fine with getting something started, but that's gonna fall under purview of the mayor in regards to directing those associates. So I would have to fall back on
Okay.
that.
Could we see if we can get started on that and ask the mayor if
fine
we
with
can get Public Works to at least start doing that? Because we did promise
Right.
the dog park residents that we would do this at Ellard Park, and this has been prolonged too long.
know.
This would be something that's temporary, and we could continue with the long-term plan, but at least we have something in place for them to take their dogs.
I mean, as long as there's no conflict with the contractor that's working through everything,
Mhm.
which I don't foresee, so I would have no problem. I would have no problem asking the mayor what we could do and getting with
Okay.
Public Works in order to do that. If you will give me a few business days, Miss Ann, I will respond to you in
Okay.
regards to see if there's something we can do in the meantime.
I appreciate it. And as I'm offering my time and knowledge and guidance, whatever, I can make phone calls, set up a committee, whatever the city needs to
Okay.
facilitate
Thank
getting
you.
it going.
You're always so gracious with your time. Thank you. Okay, yes, ma'am.
Francesca Roscoe, 5018 Janet Lane. This piece of property may already be on the abatement board's list, but it's located at 5220 Cornell Drive. Apparently, the renters have moved out of that piece of property. There are broken out front windows with paper stuck in the windows and torn blinds in the front windows of the house, and the property just looks horrible. But the address is 5220 Cornell Drive.
Thank you. Can you get that to? Okay. There's an abatement board meeting tomorrow night. It'll be brought up at that time. Thank you. Okay. See a hand going up? All right, come on.
I'm Cindy Dorsett, and I live on Monticello Road. And I have two issues that I wanted to bring up. One being the stop sign that where you exit Crestwood and come around and get onto 16th Street, where that vape shop is. Would it be possible that they could trim the hedges down some? I can't see. You know, you come to a stop and you're looking, trying to make sure there's no one coming. You cannot see. And I've talked to the police about it, and they said the same thing. I almost hit someone the other day coming home from church. I had stopped and started to pull out, and it's just a safety issue. They don't have to get rid of the bushes. If they could just trim them down some, it would be helpful.
We will take that too. Yep. Okay.
And then the other issue I have is on our street, at the end of the street, the house that it's on Monticello and 16th on the corner is a wreck. The grass is up to my knees. It's junky. It devalues our property. All of us on the street try to keep our yards nice. A lot of us are even putting money into improving our yards and such, and that is an eyesore. I also think that there may be criminal activity that goes there. I have no proof, but you're suspicious of it. So if someone could
Ms.
tell
Lee
these
will
people.
take that to the Housing and
Yeah.
Abatement Board. You're more than welcome to come to that meeting they're having tomorrow. But we will make sure that if that's worthy of being on their radar, that we'll get it on their radar.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Yes. We have any more comments on? Yes, ma'am. Sorry?
He's gonna play.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll give you a moment to get settled.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to direct your attention to the back of my house. This is my view from my kitchen window.
What's your address, first of all?
1501 Monticello Road. My name is Nina Nolan. Is it gonna,
Yes, ma'am.
well, wait a minute.
Okay.
It's,
And we are looking at,
Restore,
Okay.
Habitat for Humanity. And this is what I look at day in and day out. And I'm tired of it. We're all tired of it. There are ordinances in place. There are ordinances in place. They're violating these. They're violating their own ethics covenant of how they are to treat the community. I have begged, I have asked, I have pleaded. I have talked to Charles Moore. I have talked to Patricia Birch. I have talked to Mayor Stewart. I think I have addressed this with you before, Mr. Spivey. I want something done. They are in violation. They are, it's an atrocity. This affects me personally, emotionally, physically, financially, and I've had it. I nor any of the community should be treated like this or harassed by Charles Moore. And if he drives down the alley one more time or cruises by my house one more time on a Sunday, Saturday, or whatever, and attacks me when I go out because I've talked to Habitat International trying to get some sort of resolution, and they say I have to deal with the local entity, which is Charles Moore. I have talked to Charles Moore. He is demeaning, hateful, and when I first started talking to him, conflict of interest.
I'm going to go ahead and stop you right there. Okay. Can we get the mayor to get with the inspector and just see what there is that we can possibly do about this? If I could be looped in on that.
Do we know if the inspector has?
I don't know if the inspector's gone out there before.
I can see
So-
the dumpster from my couch
Okay.
in my living room.
Okay. Do y'all want to go ahead and come up individually?
I just
Okay.
was gonna let you know.
Okay.
I live across the street from her, and I
yeah.
can see the dumpster.
We all
Understood.
have to endure looking at that.
Are there others, just from a show of hand and support, okay, for this young lady, other people that share the exact same concern? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other citizens that displayed that. Are there anything that y'all want to
We
add?
have, excuse me, I'm sorry.
No. Okay, 2 others that are not here. Fair enough. So is there anything additional that needs to be added that is different than what this young lady just stated? Okay.
It's when I bought my house 20 years ago, the people that were there kept it nice, tidy. There was never an issue. When Habitat first moved in, there wasn't an issue. It's gotten worse over the years. They went from a, like a 15-yard dumpster with a lid to a 40-yard roll-off unit,
Okay.
which they sometimes empty at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Understood. So y'all would be okay echoing this young lady's sentiment as far as the record is concerned?
100%.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for your
May
time.
may I
Briefly, as we are trying to manage this.
My neighbor came out when
Mr. Moore and I were having, and I have witnesses. There are 4 witnesses of this encounter. And he asked her, "How long have you lived here?" And she said 6 years. And this is what the former mayor of Irondale said to her: "You knew we were back here when you bought the house. Why'd you buy it?"
Fair enough. Any other comments on non-agenda items this evening? Yes, sir, in the back.
Thank you.
You're welcome and thank you.
Hello, my name is Mike Hofsky. I am actually a brand new resident of Irondale. I own a business in Irondale as well. Thank you. Just bought Bob Saunders. Apparently, he's quite famous around here. His home. However, there is an issue that I've noticed, and I just moved here with my wife Sue from Huntsville. Is directly behind us at 1831 4th Avenue South is the Village Chapel, which is a vacant building, and I believe it's for sale. Our home faces the back of that, and it's in very bad shape. There's boarded over, I believe, where windows were. There's at least half of the siding has fallen off, and it's an eyesore. And myself and several of my neighbors have already been talking about it, and I don't know the process, but I thought I'd bring it to the council's attention. Somebody needs to, I'm even willing to help contribute to pay to get it repaired. I just don't want to look at it every day. And then immediately to the west of that is a home that is completely abandoned. That either, and I don't know how it works around here, either needs to be occupied or raised or something, but it's also a significant eyesore.
Do you have the approximate address?
It would be just on the west side of the Village Chapel.
Okay.
It's directly adjacent to it. It's a residential home.
Okay, we're familiar.
So my primary thing is the chapel, but it's right next door. The house next to that appears to be under some type of renovation, which in our particular neighborhood, there's a lot of that work going on, which is great.
Okay.
A lot of the houses are beautiful.
Okay.
But the Village Chapel and that one just to the west of it are an eyesore at
Understood.
a minimum.
Well, the process goes, you've already completed kind of step 1, making us aware. Ms. Lee will get that over to the city inspector and see if there's any same as Habitat, see if there's anything that we can do about that.
Okay, thank you very much.
So I would say follow up with mayor's office and inspections on that.
All right, I will.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you and welcome to the neighborhood.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
What's your bid? I didn't have time to change. I own the Amco transmission on Crestwood Boulevard. Yes, sir. So I can walk to work.
Outstanding. Thank you, sir. Any other comments on non-agenda items this evening? Yes, ma'am.
Hey everybody, how are y'all tonight?
Good.
Good to see y'all again. It's been since March since I've stood in front of you, so I'm gonna introduce myself again. I'm Mary Beth Butts. I live at 1506 Monticello Road. Just a quick synopsis of why I'm here. I'm here to talk about the short-term rentals again. Quick timeline, I'll keep this fast. I know we're in a hurry. January 16th, that weekend, there was a shooting on 3rd Avenue South, which was our first shooting at an Airbnb here in Irondale. On January 22nd, the following Saturday, was a second shooting at an Airbnb in Irondale that was 2 doors down from me, which hit the siding of my home, as well as 4 other properties on the street. March 21st, you guys graciously helped us pass Ordinance 2022-02, which is restricting short-term rentals to a minimum of 30 days. We are very appreciative of this. I don't want this to sound like we are not. We are grateful for your backing and your support. And the manner in which it was done was prompt, and we are grateful for that. I came back to speak with you guys on March 15th, just because we want to continue discussions on it. Now that we have something in place, we want to see what we can do to better that, so we can feel safe. We want everybody to be on the same page with that. I was told to contact Ms. Cuellar because she's in charge of the ordinance committee meetings. So I reached out to her. And we scheduled twice and had to cancel twice. Things happen. I totally understand that. She actually wanted to wait until she attended an ALM convention with Mr. Box, right? Is that correct? ALM?
Yes.
Okay.
Alabama League of Municipalities.
Yes. So I reached back out to her last week. She responded in saying that she recommended that we come speak to you guys as a whole instead of pursuing the ordinance committee meeting, which is why I'm here again. In the time that I last saw you guys from March 15th to now, we have on record 5 new Airbnbs in the city limits. They've all popped up, and none of them are in compliance with your 30-day ordinance. And that's a problem for us. I will say that as we have seen these, you guys asked us to police it, right? We've done that. We have informed the city, we've informed the mayor, we've informed Lee Allison, who's been phenomenal. Every time we inform her, she's on it like that. That's not the issue. Our concern is moving forward is how do we continue to discuss this issue? Lack of enforceability of the current ordinances. Like, if we're monitoring it, that's great. But if we're not monitoring it as citizens, how can the city do something about it, right? Can we legally hold the owners accountable? Because in all 5 of those Airbnbs, it states on those listings that they are not owner-occupied properties. All 5 of them. Looked at it today. And really, we are very concerned about short-term rentals in general, and we want to open the discussion. Mr. London even mentioned it the last time we spoke here at this podium, to ban them all together. If we can't enforce it, if we can't keep on top of it, can we just do away with them? So that's kind of what I'll propose to you guys. I just want to know what we need to do from here on out, because we've done what we needed to do, what I was told to do, and now they've sent me back here. So here I am.
So I would always, just to address you and to keep it moving and everything like that. And there we might need to, in maybe another meeting, carve out a certain amount of time for you. You
Sure.
know, we can
I would
look at
love that.
doing that. If we're not going to address it in an ordinance meeting, or maybe have a work session or something like that. It doesn't necessarily have to be an ordinance meeting per se. We can carve out some time to hear from the group. But the first step would definitely be to make sure, and I think you've reported this to Ms. Lee, is that make sure that the addresses y'all have are the same addresses that we have.
Yes.
So we can take a look at it from a legal standpoint.
And we've done that.
Right.
Lee's been fantastic.
Yeah, but just
And
yeah, that's-
responds
yeah,
instantaneously.
Yeah, she's
It's awesome.
fantastic. They're fantastic. You know, I'm not going to comment on legal procedure. That's what we.
And that may not be for us
yeah.
to discuss tonight. I just really
Right.
want to know what our next step is, because we kind of feel like
Yeah.
we're getting tossed around a little bit,
I do
and we're
know
getting a little
that-
frustrated.
I
with
do
it.
know that some
So-
serving has been done. I'm not going to comment on specific properties or timelines or anything, but I know there
Uh-huh.
has been some serving done. So we are in the process of walking through that with some of the properties. So
Okay.
we are enforcing what we passed.
That's
You know?
great.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
So
great.
we appreciate you
grateful for
guys.
that.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys bringing it to our attention and
Sure.
making sure, because there's what 15 sites you can rent a short-term rental on and everything like that, and it's very difficult to keep track of everything. So
Oh
the
yeah,
fact that
they're
y'all-
popping up, man. They're popping up
Yeah,
left and right.
Yeah. So I would say just let us, make sure we have the same addresses you guys do, and let us just move it through our enforcement process.
Okay, so how do we continue to talk about the actual ordinance that's in place and to discuss possibly banning these all together?
Gotcha. So we will
What's our
get
next
together. We'll come up with a way to do that procedurally, and
Okay.
I'll circle back around to you on that.
So you'll reach out to me?
I will reach out to you, Ms. Butts.
Okay. Do you want me to leave my email address and cell phone number
No,
for you?
we've emailed plenty. We're good.
Oh man, I know you got it. I give it to you. Got a business card. I'll give you that too.
But I appreciate the willingness to share information.
Yeah,
So,
I really, and I know that we seem like a nuisance to you guys. I promise we're not trying to be.
You guys are good.
We want to be safe. So
We're good.
We want to be safe in our own home.
Cool.
Thank you guys for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you, ma'am. Any other comments on?
Can I just ask Lee, did any of those have a business license, or have they come to get one since? I don't know the timeline from when you reported them, but.
And if I could just comment that one of the things, so that there isn't a misunderstanding on the process. When you do have these instances, the Alabama law is very clear. Council members are not allowed to direct city employees. That is not, we cannot do that. We're forbidden from doing that. So, I mean, we get emails and why aren't you getting with so-and-so and why aren't you getting with so-and-so? I can't. He can't. None of us can. That is a mayoral responsibility. And so always keep our mayor informed, always keep our city clerk informed, because they are the ones that can make sure that these ordinances are being enforced. But we're not the ones that can carry out. We adopt it, we pass it, and then after that, it falls to the employees and the mayor to enforce it.
Yes,
That's the
mayor
process.
And the clerk are copied on every email that's
Yes.
sent, as well as Mr. Spivey, so everyone's involved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name's Glenn Weldon, and I live on Fourth Avenue. And first, I'd like to say thank you to Irondale for what you do. After living in Birmingham most of my life, Irondale does a great job. The public works, the fire department, the police department. I'm proud to be in Irondale. But we have an Airbnb next door to my house too, so I want to continue that conversation. And I didn't know anything about it. This guy just bought the house next door to me, and I get home from being out of town, and there's a notification in my mailbox that he's required by the Irondale, some laws or something, that he has to notify for short-term rentals. Well, I don't know a lot about the procedure and how the Airbnb situation works, but I have friends in a lot of different cities all over the country that run into problems with them constantly. You know, when they're in their neighborhood, they have a lot of traffic, they have people throwing garbage out, shootings, fights, all kinds of crazy stuff goes on. And I have great neighbors all around Fourth Avenue. All of my people are great. We all know each other. We look out for each other. We don't need that kind of stuff. So anything that I can do to help you get rid of the Airbnbs, let me know, because I don't want them in my neighborhood.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments on non-agenda items at this time? No other comments on non-agenda items? That being the case, I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much for coming out this evening. And, yep.